Drake and Party Next Door, Some Sexy Songs for You is projected to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200 with 250,000 units sold in the first week. Now, all I've been hearing about this record post-release has been, like, I won't call it cope, but it seems like preparation from Drake's audience that it's gonna go under the radar. Like, it's gonna go under what they assumed that it would. And I would like to say first and foremost that a record like this, I wouldn't have expected to sell like weekend level numbers first week, because number one, Party Next Door as a solo artist, Drake as a solo singer, or both of them combined, don't have a shred of talent that can hold up to what The Weeknd is able to do singing wise on an album in any capacity, right? So the predictions from his fan base saying that he was gonna do anywhere near what The Weeknd did first week is insane to me. Y'all was just, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why you thought that was about to happen or occur when the primary focus of this album was supposed to be them singing. I don't know why you thought it was going to translate like that. I don't know how you thought that in any stretch of the word. Now, there is talks of Party Next Door and Drake's album being like undercut, being suppressed. And I knew that this would be the angle because Drake is the only artist right now that can be as big as he is and say that the world can't stop him while also saying that he's being thwarted or he's being suppressed or that there's an attempt or a plan to stop him. He's unstoppable, but also very stoppable at the same time, and his fan base believes it. His fan base believes it to a point where they're saying that not only is Drake being suppressed, but Kendrick is also being overly promoted. I wanted to see if I could see any examples of it, but I'm gonna open up Spotify right now because the first thing they told me, if I went to the Apple Music Play Store, that you wouldn't see Drake's Some Sexy Songs for You. You wouldn't see it at all. The first thing I see when I open up iTunes is Some Sexy Songs for You. The first thing that I saw when I opened up Apple Music was Some Sexy Songs for You. I just opened up my Spotify account right now, and where is Drake's and Party Next Door's album? Right here. I don't know where the suppression angle is coming from when there are people that can literally just open up their apps and find it. Like, you could say Kendrick only got XYZ because of XYZ. You could say this because of this and theorize, but when the evidence is this easily accessible, why lie? Why say that? The cope can't be that great. You're not even trying to hide it, Spotify. Keep in mind, this is the same company that weren't they sued by the people because of overpromotion of Drake back in 2018? Same company, by the way, that had to give people refunds because Drake was showing up in playlists that he shouldn't have been in. I don't think that there's a Los Polos tweet from 2018 calling out Spotify saying you're not even trying to hide it at that point. I don't think that there is a tweet like that. For whatever reason, I don't know why. This is apparently a Drake fan page saying Spotify Top USA versus Apple Music Top USA songs. And they have Luther with SZA, Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us, TV Off, Squabble Up, All the Stars, Doechii, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Chappell Roan. I gotta listen to this track too, by the way. Again, I'm confused at what it is that I'm supposed to be like. What am I supposed to be upset about? These are all the songs that he performed at the Super Bowl, right? All the Stars, y'all literally saw me re-download it during the watch because of how great the song is. I forgot, like, damn, it's been a long time since I heard All the Stars. Let me replay it again. Why not? Apple Music is Give Me a Hug, Luther, Not Like Us, and the remainder of the Drake and Party Next Door album. So I'm confused at what it is that I'm like. What am I supposed to be looking at here? It's two, like, the very first comment is literally my thoughts personified. It's two different platforms, two different algorithms, and on both of those platforms, Luther and Not Like Us are in the top 3 spots.
And so upon looking at the list again, what I'm seeing here is an argument being made by the Drake audience, making note of the disparity it seems that Some Sexy Songs for You is having on Apple Music versus the engagement that it's receiving on Spotify. And that disparity somehow allowing them to believe that this is now an album that's being suppressed because everything that Drake said about Spotify must in fact be true. And my counter to that is I'm not necessarily seeing a Drake Some Sexy Songs for You suppression on Spotify's part. What I'm seeing is a lack of priority on Spotify's part. As I've said before, Drake historically has had massive promotion over promotion to a point where it went into territories that it didn't belong. And of course, Drake's audience didn't make a big deal about that because it didn't matter to them at the time, because the narrative was Drake is number one, always will be number one, and deserves number one by default, regardless of the quality of work that he puts out or his relationships with the business that are distributing his music. Even now, with an album that's completely R&B focused, with an artist that a lot of people don't know, despite the fact that if you are a Drake fan, you likely do know, the attachment to another artist immediately is going to drive away a little bit of interest, even if it is Drake that's associated with the project. If Kendrick Lamar dropped a collab project with, let's say, Vince Staples or Schoolboy Q, it's likely to receive less engagement than a full solo body of work. Despite these things being true across the board for most artists, Drake's fans still seem to think that he deserves a number one placement, still think that he deserves 400,000 or 500,000 units first week. None of these factors seem to matter to them at all. It doesn't seem to matter that there are no music videos for any records on this album. It doesn't seem to matter that there are no singles that were promoted prior to this album's release. None of the things that you would need to do conventionally to promote an album that you would like to do well months ahead of time in order to make sure that it sells very highly first week seem to be taken into account by any of Drake's audience. By default, they've resigned him to having a number one spot, despite not having to do any of the work or preparation in order to attain said spot. Regardless of all of that, Drake is still probably going to sell very well, despite the fact that he did none of that leading up until this point. What I'm seeing is a company that's had their name dragged through the mud publicly over botting rumors and an artificial inflation of a song that's been received very well by the general public. These accusations coming from an artist who they have historically over prioritized probably is going to sour a bit of the waters of the relationship that they might have. So to me, it isn't surprising that Drake isn't receiving the type of priority he used to. But don't get that misconstrued with suppression. Suppression is making sure you don't see the records that would naturally be in those placements. Lack of priority is making sure when this album is released, we don't do additional work to make sure people see it, decreasing the likelihood that it shows up in places where it doesn't belong. Though I am sure some other artists, Kendrick included, might be receiving some of that priority, but he isn't currently the only one, and to make it seem as if he's the special case is conspiratorial in my opinion. And just to refresh your memory, this has happened before where Drake has come out with a record that has received very little promo, came out at the drop of a dime, and did numbers similar to the numbers that you're seeing on this Party Next Door and Drake collaboration. But I know it matters now more than ever for Drake to be number one, for him to be the main listened to hip hop artist, even though he's making an R&B album. I know how much that title means now to his audience and even to him, given the very public and accepted narrative that he lost in his feud with Kendrick Lamar. Not being number one in this instance would mean not only are you losing to Kendrick Lamar in the rap beef, but you're losing to him in the numbers game, which is one of the primary things Drake fans and Drake himself have always held over everyone else's head. Regardless of how good or critically acclaimed we feel other people's music may be, regardless of how many fans those other artists may have, it doesn't matter because majority of the world is always going to be listening to Drake. But what happens when the numbers no longer reflect that? What else do you have to hang on to? What else do you have to live by? Despite this very obvious worry and scrambling, no, I'm not quoting Kendrick Lamar, they're giving him W's in other areas like selling out shows, songs off of Some Sexy Songs for You still breaking into the top 10 potentially. The point I'm trying to make here is Drake was always going to be fine whether he won or lost this beef. And it might be socially acceptable to make fun of him, but nobody's unironically walking around thinking that Drake's career is over. What people need to remember here is that Drake and Kendrick Lamar are a part of a program, and no amount of social ostracization is going to reduce them to underground record selling numbers. No amount of public controversy is going to fade them into obscurity because they far transcended how a normal person would interact with their music. Hear an album, play it. You have multiple institutions, multiple social media outlets, multiple businesses, multiple distributors telling you to listen to their songs, telling you to consume their content. They've both been beyond the point of cancellation for years now. So this worry or this fear or this PSA that one of the two of them is currently being suppressed because they're not receiving priority is ridiculous.